Good morning. Happy Thursday. I am really excited to be here today. I'm feeling really grounded, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. How to stay grounded and focused while living in this uncertainty and this kind of chaos that we're living in today. You are in the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is the Coffee Break Show. I'm Vickie Helm, and it's brought to you by the Metadyne Digital Network. I want to thank you wherever you are. If you're watching from YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or wherever you're going, if you're listening on iTunes or iHeartRadio or Pandora, wherever you're listening from, thank you for being here. Today is a very important conversation because we are stirring, our lives are stirring in a lot of chaos right now, more than normal, more than has been there in the past, especially in this pandemic economy, this pandemic as it's taken to the next level. If you're in the United States, you're wondering what's going to happen with the presidency. We don't know yet. We're still looking at what's the president's next move or what the president-elect is going to do. We're just sitting in this unknown. And today I thought to myself, how is it that you can stay grounded? How is it that you can, not be pulled by, things like anxiety or anger, just being angry? How is it that we can manage to be grounded and focused as things transform, fall apart, go away? We are looking at how do we move forward with that? And I just want to say good morning to the people who are coming on. Karen says hi to everyone. Good morning, Karen. Nice to see you on. And here it is, how to stay grounded and focused. Whew, that's a thing to do in this chaotic time. So I want to tell you what I do to stay grounded or focused. And I want to also tell you where I came from. And I want to tell you in a very deep, personal way. There was a time when I had panic attacks, and there was a time when I had anxiousness and fear all the time, just all the time. And in my teen years, when I was about 16, I literally could not be left alone. I always had to have somebody with me. 100% of the time, I was that scared all the time. And it was very hard on my family because they couldn't just be rid of me. I mean, it was like babysitting Vickie so she didn't freak out. And I was embarrassed by that. I was ashamed by that. I was ashamed of having what I thought were tics, I guess, or kind of just a mental instability. And maybe a lot of people are going through that. So if you asked me back then what I was scared of, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you why I was scared of, but I started having irrational thoughts. Like my sister asked me, well, what are you worried about happening if you stay here and you stay by yourself and you're just hanging out with yourself? What do you think is going to happen? Well, I grew up in an area where there was the East Area rapist. We had a serial killer in our area, and I was worried about the serial killer. I didn't want to be alone with them. But then it got to the point where I realized I was afraid of choking and nobody being around to, give me the Heimlich maneuver, the Heimlich maneuver. And what ended up happening was I had irrational thoughts, and I was terrorized by those irrational thoughts. And I don't know how many of you can relate to having irrational thoughts or having panic attacks or not being able to be alone or thinking to yourself somehow that you cannot protect yourself. You cannot, stick up for yourself. You have no boundaries. You have no sense of self. If you have no sense of yourself, you're going to experience these kinds of things, these panic attacks. Now, some of these things can be, reactions to having allergies to something like wheat or, whatever allergy you have. You can have sensitivities that create these things for you. But what happens when you have an onslaught of uncertainty or the unknown? Because if I sat when I was 16 and looked at why I was having panic attacks, one of the things that would be there for me is I was scared of the unknown. I was scared of what might happen. And I was scared of the stories I was telling myself. I did not realize or see how I was actually participating in that little bit of crazy. I didn't see how I was participating in irrational thoughts. I actually believed my irrational thoughts. I didn't actually have a way to separate them at 16 and say, these are irrational thoughts and these are healthy thoughts. And I told you, we talk about it all the time. There's only two things that thoughts can do. They'll either impair you or empower you. And I was having thoughts that impaired me to the point where I couldn't be left alone. I was anxious all the time. And I've had a couple of panic attacks along the way. At those points in my lifetime, having that pain made me become a seeker. And they took me to a psychiatrist. And he was, like, why are you here? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I was in that psychiatrist's office 4 minutes and he said, you're a healthy, smart kid. Get out of here. You don't need me. You're fine. I was like, okay, bye. Because he was the expert and he told me. I didn't have a way to tell him that I had irrational thoughts because that irrational thoughts that I had, I believed them. I didn't think they were irrational. And I couldn't see that they were causing my own pain. They were causing my own suffering. So when I found out that it was me that was causing my own suffering and I was having irrational thoughts, that's 80% of the conversation. 80% of the conversation is I'm scared because I have irrational thoughts. Then the 20% is removing those irrational thoughts and challenging them. So what happens when you're in the fit of an irrational thought? Well, let me just tell you, there are 4 kinds of feelings. You're either happy, mad, sad, or afraid. That's it. Happy, mad, sad, or afraid. That 4 feelings we know about. When we have an irrational thought, something is triggered that makes us sad, angry, or afraid. Sad, angry, or afraid. The natural stasis of a human being in the human experience, we're happy. It's all good. We're just chilling. When we get to the point where we have unhealthy thoughts, we start those thoughts, they comply, they feel, they help us, our limbic system, and says, okay, she's mad, here are angry chemicals, and suddenly you feel mad. Or here's fearful chemicals, she feels scared. And you have a go-to feeling. A lot of people who are scared don't get mad, they get scared first and they hang out in fear. And until their life is threatened, and sometimes even when their life is threatened, they don't get to the point where they are protecting themselves. So I want to share with you what I learned about how to gather myself back, because I didn't use Prozac. I don't believe in, and I think if you use it, that's fine, but I don't believe in antidepressants because they mask the feelings so well that I cannot see what I'm doing to myself. So I didn't use antidepressants. I realized that I couldn't have everybody follow me forever. And I had to kind of take control of this kind of, thing that was happening to me. Hey, Few, nice to see you on. Nice to see you. I don't know if this Facebook user is Few or not, or if it's Peter, but that's kind of a Peter saying. If that's you, Peter, hello, nice to see you on. Nice to see you guys gathering around. So anyway, I want to give you 3 tips that I used that help me center myself, ground myself, and focus myself. So here's what I want to do. I want to start from, hi, I'm really in it, and it's an emergency, and I'm feeling really shook up. I don't know what to do. And I don't know what problem to use. I want to stay with the feeling. It could be, I don't know where to find a job. I'm about to lose my house. Something could happen to me. It doesn't matter. It could be an irrational thought or something that, might be imminent. But the only way through this and the only way to shift this so you find an answer, so you get a different result, so that you're more grounded and more centered, so you can, help you go forward. I want to tell you some of the things that I did. If you're in it and you're having a full-blown panic attack, you cannot reason. So don't try to reason. But don't try to run from it either. what I did was I sat down and I just let all the fear I'd ever felt, all of it just come rushing through me. What I realized when I felt the fear is that I didn't melt. Nothing happened to me. I remember having about in college, I must have been 19, 20 years old. And I lived in apartments that were over a restaurant that was across the street from the college I went to. And I remember going into the apartment and I had that feeling again. I got so scared. And then I locked the door and I shut the door and I ran down the stairs and I was going to go have a cup of coffee in the restaurant. So I wasn't alone. There were people around me and I was safe. So what ended up happening is I got halfway down the stairs and I was so pissed at myself, so mad. I'm like, you are not going to let this control you anymore. So I ran up the stairs and I opened the door and I shut the door and I slammed it. And I was like, fine, you're scared. Feel you're scared. Just feel it now. And I could hear that frustration of me not being able to enjoy my time alone, enjoy my apartment by myself. I was so afraid of that. I just was like, that's it. And I sat down on the floor in the middle of the apartment and I was like, I'm not moving till I feel better, till I figure this out. So I sat there. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't do anything. I just felt my panic. Nothing happened to me. It felt terrible to feel it. But about 5 minutes in, it started to go away. It started to dissolve and I didn't even realize it. And what had happened was I became unconscious and I was like looking at a magazine and I was going through the magazine. I must have been 15 or 20 minutes into that magazine before I realized I wasn't panicked anymore and I didn't notice. And I thought, oh, what did I do? Well, I confronted the panic. I didn't try to run away from it. I didn't try to run away from the anxiousness. But what I noticed was my thoughts had changed. The thing I was thinking had changed. Like somebody could break in, kill me and hurt me, which is an irrational thought. I mean, it could, but the chances were like 0.01 that would happen. And so what happens is we have to learn to confront our irrational thoughts and place them with healthy thoughts. And what I had to do in order to do that, what I did for myself is I started asking myself and started watching myself. What did I just say to me that made me fearful? And it's a nanosecond. It's a split second thought. And what I realized then afterwards was that I had attached that thought. Like I could have thousands of thoughts in front of me. And I'm like, okay, I picked that one because it's the scariest thought ever. And I pull that thought towards me and I believe it. And that thought just absolutely overtook me. I never thought I could let go of that thought and pick something that's more empowering, pick that and bring it to me and say, you know what? This is the thought I choose to have. And that I realized I believed my thinking more than I challenged it. And so what I want to share with you guys today is that first tip is challenge your unhealthy thought. Don't believe everything you think. There's tons of books out there. There's tons of meditation practices. I'm just trying to give you kind of the quickie dry version of what I did that helped me move past that anxiety, because there's going to be more anxiety coming up for people if they don't get focused and examine what they're doing. That is the most healthy thing that you can do. Now, the thing is, once I focused and I challenged that thought, I wanted to stay grounded in thoughts that were kind and peaceful, because then I was kind and peaceful. And to me, if you've ever had an anxious moment or if you've ever had a panic attack, you know that's like a trip to hell. I mean, it's a trip to hell. And so you become so powerful when you can sit in hell with yourself and just feel it. The more you just let it arise through you and feel it, the more your thoughts will come and try to torture you some more. When you first feel it, you're like, okay, you have to get tired of feeling this way. You have to have suffered enough that you're willing to do something other than what you've been doing. Because if it's there, it's not working. And that's what I did. I was so sick of managing my life based on my unhealthy thoughts that I just was like, that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to think that anymore. That's not who I am. And this is the most important part. The thoughts you think are not who you are. They aren't. The panic you feel, that's not who you are either. The anger you feel, that's not who you are. You're not any of that. So what are you? You are, if you look at the brain, you are not your brain. So if you move your brain over here, you are the soul inside you. You're that divine being. The brain is keeping that divine being down by telling itself scary thoughts, scary thoughts, scary thoughts, angry thoughts, angry thoughts, angry thoughts, confusing thoughts, or whatever kinds of thoughts you use. And if you want to be grounded, really grounded, because what I did when I first stopped my own panic attack, that made me feel empowered as ever before. I've never had anything that was more empowering than me being able to stop my own panic attack just like that. There's something about you that's empowered then. And it's not what you think. It's the person that came up and said, I've had enough of this. It's not your brain that does that. Your brain will feed you the same scary thoughts over and over again. And you aren't your thoughts. You aren't your brain. You're that thing that goes, I'm tired of being like this. I'm tired of feeling like this. This is it. You're not doing this to me anymore. When that happened and I overcame that panic attack, I felt so grounded, so grounded. And sometimes when you get anxious or scared, you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have enough money. I don't. That terrorist inside of you, that terrorist, you need to put that little terrorist in jail because you're telling your brain, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do. Do you know your brain, when your brain and your soul work together, and the soul is the part of you that's actually in charge, it knows what to do. It'll tell you where to go. The difference is the you inside of you isn't listening to you. It's listening to the brain. What part of you is listening to your brain? You know, Eckhart Tolle says that in The Power of Now, he talks about being in just really depressed. And he finally figured out that there was the thought and then somebody else that was asking the question of the thought. And at that moment, he could separate the two. And that's what we need to do in order to be grounded. It's a practice. Now, I think they should have taught this skill set in elementary school, like in kindergarten. It's like, here's A, B, C. Here's your thoughts, but here's you. Now, I got to tell you this too. You aren't the feelings you're having. You're not the angry, sad, fearful feeling. You know, that feeling, it's like, oh, it's real. It's true because I feel it. No, that's not true either. When your soul, it's like the emotions can be triggered by your limbic system. It makes it feel as though your thoughts are real. It validates the way you think, but it's not the truth. And that's the difference. And you learn that over time. You guys, I want to say that I see you guys talking over there. I'll be there in a minute. What you have to find out is who you actually are. So if you're not your thoughts and you're not the feeling you feel, and you're not actually even this body that you have, this is just something that's on loan for a few years. What actually are you? If you want to be truly grounded in this world, I mean, grounded through chaos and everything, it's important to understand who you actually are, because when you begin to live from that place, you'll know where to be. You'll be out of the danger. You'll be out of the way. You'll know what you're doing next. You'll know what to say. You'll have this feeling that'll say to you, just kind of say to you, I know you guys have felt it in an emergency, like, you know, get out of here now, or no, don't take that job. And it doesn't come from your mind. It comes from way deep in your heart. And it's like this knowing that feels very aligned. This knowingness This knowingness is another form of intelligence that helps lead you through your life. The thing we like to do is pay attention to what we think so much that we don't pay attention to anything else. And when we ground down and you are you, you are enough. You have everything you need. You have direction. You have guidance. You're aligned with the divine when you are your true nature. And then for me, one of the things that I found out, so number one, you got to watch your thinking. Number two, you got to explore who your actual nature is. Number three, and nature, knowing that you're divided, you're divinely guided and part of the divine, you're part of that. And the third thing I know that really helped me kick butt on having any kind of anxiety is breathing. Every morning I use peppermint oil to help myself breathe, just even breathing deep into your belly, not, you do that when you run, but I mean deep breaths, like taking big breaths. And one of the things is I take a deep breath, you hold it for 5 seconds and you let it out slowly. So it's like, and I do that over and over a few times until my body feels calm. We are talking about this because I know today I was reading again how horrible the virus is, how the political situation is volatile, how there could be the possibility of all kinds of disruption. And now there's some serial killer dude in my area, which that doesn't make me really happy. And I was like, hold it there. And how do you manage your way through? Lastly, I know I said 3 tips, but I want to give you the fourth thing I do, because I think this is the most important thing. Visualize what you want, not what's being thrown at you or you see there. Visualize what you want. Now, if you're anxious right now, or if you're super angry, or if you're in a panic attack, visualizing is hard to do. The first thing you want to do is take care of you. Now, when I'm in it, when I had a big panic attack, I would put on something on TV that is funny, not scary, not something funny or light, something romantic comedy, something that pulled me out of my mind and put my attention on something else. Now, that's the key. Where is your attention? And how, when you're doing this, how can you put your focus and attention where you want it to go? If it's insular and your focus and attention is on that terrorist in your head who keeps telling you scary things and you're like, oh my God, I'm frightened, then you can't think. You have to be kind with yourself. It's like, okay, I'm scared, I'm anxious, and you be kind with yourself and manage it. I mean, if that means I'm so scared right now and a piece of chocolate would make me feel better, that's what you do. If watching a comedy and eating some popcorn while you watch comedy makes you relax, do what makes you relax. If it's go for a bike ride, if it's whatever it is in the middle of that panic attack, you get up and stop serving everyone else and say what's happening to you. The thing that I didn't do was I didn't say I'm panicked or I'm scared. I didn't want anyone to know I had this irrational fear. And because of that, I couldn't get any help. I'm certain if I said I'm having irrational fears, people would have helped me because they loved me. And I was so ashamed of having it, I couldn't speak out. And speaking out is the first thing. Now, I want to talk to those people who are feeling like living isn't a good idea, because living to them means living in fear all the time, or living means that it's just scary and it's just better to be dead. That to me is the worst kind of thought you can have. The thought that says, I'm better off dead. And those to me are suicidal thoughts. And I'm talking to you out there with suicidal thoughts. Those suicidal thoughts, because the pain is so real, are brought on by thoughts. They're not suicidal actions. They're suicidal thoughts. They're just thoughts. You feel suicidal. You aren't suicidal. If you say, I am suicidal, no, I feel suicidal. No person is born with the I am suicidal. But the more you label yourself, I am this, the more you become that. If you say, I feel suicidal, you can separate the I am from the feel and notice that you can feel angry and it goes away. You can feel happy and it can go away. You can feel excited and it goes away. You can feel depressed and it can go away. But when you say, I am this, you become this. When you say, I'm feeling this, it's temporary. And the truth is, right now, as painful as it is, you are saying painful things to yourself. And it could be, nobody wants me. Life isn't worth living. I suck. Nobody believes in me. I lost my marriage. I lost this. All those are horrible thoughts. They're horrible thoughts and they feel bad. And let me just tell you something. It doesn't matter who said those thoughts to themselves. They would all feel like crap. Anyone would feel depressed if they were saying what you said to yourself. Anyone would feel hurt and unhappy and lonely and terrorized if they were saying those things to yourself. The other thing is, it's like if you're feeling suicidal, when you feel suicidal, you could see, okay, I experienced a trauma and I don't know how to ask for help for it, or I don't know what to do with it. But if you feel suicidal because of a trauma, you can stop yourself then if you feel suicidal. But if you feel suicidal from a trauma, you need to go get help. You need to call a line of someone and say, I'm feeling so much pain. I say this because there's a lot of people right now. I just have a friend who lost their whole family to COVID. Everyone. She's the only surviving member of her family. Imagine what she might be thinking or feeling right now. That we know these traumas are there. If those traumas are there, you need to go get help. So being grounded and focused is a daily practice of self-care. It's breathing and it's confronting you. It's acknowledging what's happening to you. It's being willing to step into the pain and say, what is it saying? What do I need help? What can I do? Take an action that is going to create self-care long-term. For anybody experiencing pain or suicidal thoughts right now, I hope you reach out to someone. I hope that you step up and call a suicide hotline or somebody, a therapist, somebody that is great with these kinds of traumas. And as we go into, I want to pop this up, and I think it's from Ryan. I like it. I'm sorry, I haven't popped up much, but this one popped over and I just looked at it. Perspective. Your worst day can be the best day for someone else. That's true. That's true. We have this also. It's right there. This is the suicide prevention hotline. If you call them and talk to them, they'll help you. Thank you, Karen, for the phone number there as well. But you are more than your pain. You are more than what you're telling yourself. You're more than this moment that's uncomfortable. You are much more than what you're experiencing in this minute. And you're experiencing it. It's not who you are. You aren't your anger. You aren't your sadness. You aren't your situation. You aren't your trauma. You are much more than that. And even if it looks dark right now, I mean, dark is all get out, you're still much more than your darkness. Your darkness is the illusion that you're trapped in. And once you unhook yourself from that illusion, it dissolves. I promise you, it'll dissolve. and you'll learn to live in a different way that is healthful for you and wealth for you. That's what I have to share with you today. Thank you for always sharing your heart with us, Vickie. Thank you so much for being willing to be with me while I do it. I really know the pain and suffering that can be in the world. But I'm going to tell you, there's greatness in you just as much as there is pain. And what you're going to have to do is get tired. I'm tired of being this way. I'm done with this. I'm going to go through and get this trauma healed, or I'm going to go through and find an answer for this. You have time. You are not suicidal. You're feeling suicidal. It's just a feeling. And I promise you, this too will pass. If it's a trauma, please go get help. All right, you guys, tomorrow is Friday, and I will see you Friday. Until then, be grounded, be focused, and be kind to yourself. Just be kind. All right. Mwah. Peace out. See you later. Really, go be gentle.